How we doing, everybody? 5 Vermonters in the room. That's awesome. I love it. So last year at this ceremony, I was asked to induct the great dirt modified driver Kenny Tremont, and I was pretty comfortable in that role. I've known Ken for a lot of years and seen him race and win for a long time. But I described last year how, as a kid, I was never really exposed to dirt racing, and as a school kid and a teenager, the only way to follow Kenny Tremont at the time was in the papers or in the infancy of short track coverage on the internet, which was basically non-existent. Well, the same goes with me for super modifieds, but to the nth degree. I knew they went awful fast, and a few of them had that little squatty wing thing, and that was about it. I maybe saw them race once at Lee at the most. So other than that, it was Racerama or reading the weekly rags. So to recap here, Near has entrusted me to present people that I don't know anything about. Nothing about modifieds on dirt, but I knew the name Kenny Tremont. Even less about super modifieds on asphalt, but I have heard of 2 names in super modified racing, Bentley Warren and Mike Ordway. But there's the problem. The only Mike Ordway that I had ever heard of was the street stock guy from the 90s on the dirt at Bear Ridge, so this really doesn't work out very well. I'm kidding, I'd never heard of that guy either. I did know this particular Mike Ordway. How could you not, right? He was one of the top guys in the supers for decades. And I knew that I wanted to do right by him today, even though we hadn't met, and I really don't believe I've ever seen you race. But I dove into the archives, and for a stats guy like me, that was therapy. I love stats. I love research. I love the history of this sport. And I was blown away at what I learned. Many of you in this room lived these moments. You saw this happen. But what a thrill it was for me to discover that on his way to winning a pair of ISMA championships in the 90s, he was one of the very few who won at Volusia, Florida. And there were not many opportunities for asphalt racers to drive at Volusia, let alone win. He won at Kalamazoo, Michigan, an insanely cool place that the entirety of American motorsports is aware of. He won in the Canadian Maritimes at Petty Raceway in New Brunswick and at Canada's Crown Jewel at Cayuga. He won at Jennerstown, PA. He won at the lost and lamented Flemington Square in New Jersey. He won at the historic Orange County Speedway in Rougemont, North Carolina. And that was just some of the easy stuff for me to find, and it really made my historian ears perk up. But then there's the big stuff. He was the track champion at Star Speedway right in his backyard when Star was absolutely white hot. That was in 1984. I was just a year old at that time. That was back when I was bald. He was a winner at Sandusky, Ohio in 2012. I was bald then again, too, by the way. And I'm joking about that, but if that doesn't illustrate the longevity of a driver's career, 1984, a champion, 2012, winning one of the biggest races in the country. If that doesn't illustrate his longevity, I don't know what will. And then there's everything else in between. Oktoberfest at Lee, the World Series at Thompson, twice. The Star Classic, a sweep of the High Miler at Sandusky. He drove, and he drove well for legends like Clyde Booth and Paul Dunnigan, and I did even know those names. And actually, as a quick aside, while I was doing my research for this, I came across an obituary for Paul Dunnigan, and I'm not sure who proofread it, or maybe it was intentional, but it read like this, and I quote, "After a long struggle with an undefeatable foe, Lowell, Massachusetts, super modified car owner Paul Dunnigan passed away on Monday." I suppose if you've never lived in Lowell or been through there, you won't get the joke, but those of you who do, get it. So anyway, back to Mike Ordway. There's the promised land for super modifieds, Oswego. He was a champion at the legendary Steel Palace in 1991, defeating Eddie Bellinger, Joe Gosick, Pat Abel, Bentley Warren. I've heard of those guys. Those guys are legends. That's enough to hang your hat on right there, but he also finished second in points in 88 and 92. He put together an incredible 30 wins at Oswego over a 16-year period, and that still ranks him 10th on the all-time list at the track. Consider now that Oswego is coming up on 75 years, and he is top 10 all-time. He won this Mr. Super Modified event 6 times and the Jimmy Shampine Memorial Race twice, and in 2003, the granddaddy of them all, the Classic. What else is there to say? It's a proud day for Super Modified fans and a moment that has been beyond earned for one of their greatest drivers. I have a feeling that we'll probably be back here in another 20 or 30 years honoring the next generation into the Near Hall of Fame as well, but for now, it's my honor and my privilege to induct Mike Ordway into the New England Auto Racing Hall of Fame.
Well, I'd like to thank everybody for coming. And he did his homework, some of it.
That's why you're here.
That's why I'm here? Yeah. I'm not one known as a man of few words. So I did have a lot of great car owners, and one of them is here tonight. I'm looking right at him, Red McDonald. Got to drive for Red back in, I don't know, 86, 87 maybe, Red? Thank you for that. Ricky Reduker, thank you for all the sponsorship help. We had a lot of good sponsors. AutoZone, Auto Palace, Auto Color. Remember them all. Huh? Every color, yes. Had a lot of good races over the years. Had a lot of bad ones. But that's the way racing goes, right? You win some, you lose some. Can't win them all. But I went to the racetrack to try to win them all. And I guess I won my share. So I'd like to thank a few people. I'd like to thank my wife for putting up with this for 30-something plus years of driving. We're still going to the racetrack with our son. And I'd like to thank some of my crew guys, Ed Page, Scott LeClaire, Jimmy Curtis. Bob Ventus was my first crew chief I had. I can't remember too many more. But I'd just like to say thank you, everybody here, and thanks for the committee. Thank you for voting me in. Thank you.